Alright, let's talk about some strategies for working with verbs, because we want to be able to use them in context. The first step is you need to memorize your conjugations. You could rewrite it, or you could use some online tools to help you with repetition. You also need to memorize the patterns. Remember that AR, ER, and IR each have their own patterns. You also need to know the word meanings, otherwise you won't be able to use them in context, right? Also, you should always double check your spelling and your accent marks, because the accents could change the whole meaning of the word you're trying to work with. One tool is Conjugamos. It's a website developed by a teacher for language study. If you choose the box down below, you'll see Spanish options. You want to choose Spanish verbs, then conjugation options, such as the present tense regular verbs. You could have a quiz, or you could work with verb charts. You can set the time, and you can type in very rapidly accents as well. Great option for studying. Also, it will allow you to look at verb charts, so if you forget the endings, it'll show you them. Speaking of verb charts, what are they? Well, it's an organizational tool, but how do we use that tool? Let's take a look. First, I got to draw out my chart. I need to add in all my pronouns in their correct boxes. In Spanish, of course. Now here's how this is organized. Everything in this left-hand column, it's all singular. Yo, tú, él, ellos, usted. And on this right-hand column, everything's plural. So remember, we have our English meanings. So yo, I, tú, you, él, he, ella, she, and so forth in the yellow. Remember that with vosotros, it's only used in Spain. So that's for a group when you know you're working with Spain. Otherwise, the rest of the Spanish-speaking world, which includes Central and South America as well as the islands, they all use ustedes instead to talk about or to a group. Now, what are these rows? Well, they stand for different persons. Now, maybe you've heard of these, first, second, and third person. But what does that even mean? So going across, the first row is first person, second row, second person, third row, third person. Let's go into a little more depth. So first person is when I am included. You're talking about yourself, whether you're with someone else, like we, or just by yourself. Second person, or the second row of the chart, is when you're talking directly to someone or something. You're having a conversation. Third person, on the other hand, is when you're talking about someone or something. They're not actually there, responding to you. So keeping that in mind, let's talk about how to go about picking this out. Here we have Nemo and Bruce from Finding Nemo. Let's have two sentences. Let's work with Nemo swims. Bruce eats. Now we need to be able to pick out the subject of these sentences, or sujeto in Espanol. It's the noun that does the action, so the main noun. So if you can find the verb, like swims or eats, what's doing that action? Swims is Nemo, Bruce is eats. So Nemo is the first subject. Now let's go back to the chart. How many people or things in this case, am I dealing with? Well, Nemo is one thing, so it's singular. So is Bruce. So automatically I know it has to be on this left-hand side of the chart. Am I included? Nope. So I can cross that out. Am I talking to Nemo directly? Nope. I'm talking about him, so I can cross that off. That only leaves one option. So my conjugation has to come from that third person singular box in the lower left. So let's find our verb. It's to swim. Nadar. It's an AR verb, so I'm going to draw out my chart for an AR verb. I'm going to cross out the ending of the infinitive, so I'm just left with the stem, the leftover part of the verb. I'm going to write the stem over and over in all the boxes so that I have the right spelling. Then let's add all the AR endings with my accent on the vosotros form. Then I know I needed this box down below. So I'm going to write my subject over, Nemo, and then nada from the box. Now it says Nemo swims. If I left it as nadar, it would say Nemo 2 swims, and that's definitely not what we want. Nemo nada, he swims. So again, first find your subject. Sometimes the verb can help. Choose the square in the chart. You're going to rewrite the sentence, and then you need to double check your work. So let's try an example. The verb is eat. Who's doing the eating? Well, that's what we're going to find out. To eat is comer. It's an ER verb, so I'm going to set up my chart for an ER verb. Get all my pronouns in. Seems like a lot of work now, but through repetition, it's going to get easier and easier the more I do this. Comer. Write that stem all the way through the chart. Then the endings. Want to double check my spelling and my accents as I go. Then who's doing the eating? Am I included? Why, yes, I am, because it's we. So that means I need somewhere in this first row. Next step, is it one person or more than one? Well, for this, it's definitely more than one, so I need the nosotros box. So there, I have my conjugation. Now let's put it all together. To say we in Spanish, it's nosotros. My conjugated verb, comemos, en la cafetería. That I might have to look up. There we go. That's how we use our verbs. Choose any of the verb options above and click on them to review those verbs, or you can jump to the conclusion.